when the heart slows down and the mind finally runs out of excuses, when the noise fades and only silence fills the room. That's when truth hits the hardest. You see, throughout life, people lie, cheat, and manipulate, thinking they've outsmarted everyone, even themselves. But when death finally sits beside them, they realize the truth they avoided all along. You can deceive everyone, but never your own soul. Stoic philosophy says, no evil man can escape his own conscience. And that's exactly what happens in those final moments. The mask falls, and regret begins to speak louder than words ever did. So in this video, we'll uncover the 7 most painful things bad people regret on their deathbed. The same regrets they once laughed off when life was full of distractions. Because at the end, every lie, every betrayal, every selfish act comes back as a whisper that never lets you rest. But before we dive deep into this truth, if you believe in living a conscious life, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's awaken a part of you that most people spend their lives trying to avoid. 1. Hurting people who truly cared. There comes a day, for every cruel soul, when faces from their past return. Not in person, but in memory. The ones who stood by them when they were broken. The ones who believed in them when no one else did. The ones who saw the good in them, even when they couldn't see it themselves. Those faces start to replay in their mind, over and over. The friend they betrayed, the lover they disrespected, the parent they ignored, the one who loved them for who they were and got pain in return. You see, evil isn't just about grand acts of destruction. Sometimes, it's in the small choices, the moments when someone could have shown love, but chose cruelty instead. When someone could have said, "I'm sorry," but chose silence. When someone could have protected, but chose to wound. And the tragedy? Bad people often don't even realize what they've done until there's nothing left to fix. On their deathbed, surrounded by the emptiness they created, they finally begin to understand what they destroyed. They remember those pure souls, not because they want forgiveness, but because they can feel the void left behind. The people who truly cared for them are gone, and no amount of regret can bring them back. They realize that the love they once mocked, the kindness they once saw as weakness, was the only thing that ever made them human. They remember the words they said that broke someone's spirit, the betrayal that shattered someone's trust, the manipulation that pushed someone away forever. And in those final hours, they wish they could take it all back. But time is merciless. Once love is gone, it doesn't return just because you regret losing it. Loyalty, once broken, can never be repaired. Trust, once betrayed, never truly heals. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." But bad people never understood that. They spent their lives becoming the very thing that destroyed them. They let their pain turn them cold, their pride turn them blind, and their ego turn them into monsters. And now, as the lights fade, they finally realize they didn't win. They lost everything that ever mattered. The cruel irony is this: they always believed kindness made people weak. But in the end, they see the truth that hits like thunder. Kindness was strength. Compassion was power. Forgiveness was courage. The ones they hurt, the kind, the loyal, the forgiving, they walk away lighter, freer, stronger. But the bad ones? They stay trapped in their own guilt, haunted by the ghosts of good people they drove away. So when death sits beside them, they don't fear dying. They fear remembering. Because every face they wronged becomes a mirror, showing them who they could have been had they chosen love over pride. And in that final, unbearable silence, they finally whisper the words they never had the courage to say in life. "I wish I hadn't hurt the ones who truly cared." 2. Wasting their life on control and manipulation. All their lives, they thought control was power. They moved through the world like puppet masters, pulling strings, bending people's emotions, manipulating situations just to feel superior. They learned how to twist words, play on others' fears, and make people doubt themselves. Every time they succeeded, every time they made someone submit, they felt invincible. For a moment, it felt like they were winning the game of life. But what they never realized was that they weren't playing the game, they were the game. And the prize they were chasing was an illusion. You see, bad people live under a delusion that controlling others gives them strength. But in truth, it only reveals their weakness. They manipulate because they fear vulnerability. They control because they're terrified of losing. Their entire existence becomes a performance, one lie stacked upon another, a fragile empire built on deceit. They walk through life believing they're untouchable, until death reminds them just how powerless they truly are. When that moment comes, when the body weakens, when breath turns shallow, the illusion collapses. The same people they once controlled are nowhere to be found. The ones they manipulated have moved on, healed, or simply stopped caring. And suddenly, they realize that the only thing they ever truly controlled was their own downfall. Everything else, people, fate, time, was never theirs to command. The Stoics said, "You have power only over your own mind, not external events." But the manipulator spends their entire life fighting that truth. They never learned self-mastery because they were too obsessed with mastering others. They trained themselves to dominate conversations, relationships, and emotions, but never their own impulses, fears, or insecurities. They conquered people, not themselves. And that's why in the end, they lose everything. When death approaches, there's no one left to manipulate. No more lies to hide behind. No one to control. The silence is unbearable because now they have to face the one person they could never outsmart, themselves. They see how much time they wasted chasing validation, how many relationships they poisoned, how many souls they broke just to feel powerful for a second. And in those final, lonely moments, they realize they never had power. They had fear disguised as control. The truth hits them like a blade. The more they tried to control life, the more it controlled them. Every lie they told became a chain. Every person they used became a ghost that would follow them to the end. And as their world fades, they finally see the tragedy. They spent their entire life trying to dominate others, when the only thing worth mastering was their own mind. 3. Living for image, not truth. All their lives, they chased an illusion, the illusion of being seen. They didn't want to be good. They wanted to look good. Every move they made, every word they spoke, was carefully crafted to maintain an image, the powerful one, the confident one, the one who always had it together. They built their lives like stage performances, decorating them with the right clothes, cars, smiles, and people. But behind all that shine, there was nothing, just emptiness wearing a crown. They wanted applause, not peace. Validation, not meaning. They measured their worth by how others viewed them, never by who they truly were. And the cruelest part? They didn't even realize how fake their existence had become. They believed their own performance. They looked in the mirror and saw not themselves, but the image they created for the world. That image became their prison, a mask that grew heavier with every lie they told, every truth they buried, every soul they stepped on to stay admired. But death has a way of stripping away illusions. When the lights go out and the audience disappears, there's no one left to impress. The suits, the titles, the luxuries, none of it can follow them into the silence. And in that silence, the truth begins to whisper. You live for everyone but yourself. The people they tried to impress have already forgotten them. The reputation they worshipped fades faster than the sound of their last breath. All that remains is a hollow soul, finally seeing how meaningless the performance was. They realized they spent a lifetime seeking validation from people who were just as lost as they were. They chased admiration instead of authenticity. And now, the life they built feels like a house of glass, beautiful to look at, but shattered by the first touch of reality. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And that was their curse. They thought they knew everything. They thought success was truth, fame was fulfillment, and admiration was love. But it was all noise. Empty, temporary noise. As they lie there, surrounded by fading lights and forgotten titles, a realization burns through them. They never truly lived. They only performed. They never found peace because they were too busy pretending to be powerful. The irony cuts deep. The image they worked so hard to build is the very thing that killed their soul. And as the mask begins to crumble, they see for the first time the face they've been hiding from all along. Not powerful, not perfect, just painfully human. And in those final moments, they would give everything, the fame, the attention, the wealth, just to feel something real, something true, something the image could never give. But by then, it's too late. The applause has stopped. The curtain has fallen, and all that's left is silence. 4. Ignoring their conscience. Every bad person carries a voice inside, that quiet, unshakable whisper that tells them this is wrong. They hear it in the silence after the lie. They feel it in the guilt that follows betrayal. They sense it in the emptiness after every cruel act. But instead of listening, they bury it. They drown it in noise, distractions, arrogance, excuses, and pride. Every time that voice tries to speak, they shut it down with justification. I had to do it. They deserved it. It's just how the world works. But no matter how deep they bury their conscience, it never dies. It waits. They go through life thinking they've silenced it forever, but the truth is, they've only delayed it. Stoicism calls conscience the inner God, the sacred voice that guides you toward virtue, toward who you were meant to become. But when you live in constant denial of that voice, it becomes your greatest enemy. And when death finally arrives, that voice becomes louder than ever before. The manipulations fade, the excuses collapse, and suddenly, there's nowhere left to hide. In those final hours, the past begins to echo. Every cruel word they spoke returns to them, not as memories, but as judgment. Every act of betrayal becomes a mirror reflecting what they truly were. And the conscience they ignored all their life now becomes the only companion left beside them. It doesn't scream, it doesn't accuse, it simply reminds. Reminds them of the person they could have been, the choices they could have made, the life they could have lived if they had listened. They start to realize that hell isn't a place beneath the earth. It's the torment of living against your own soul. It's the pain of knowing you betrayed yourself long before you betrayed others. Because at some point, every human knows what's right, but evil begins the moment we decide to ignore that knowing. And that's what they did, again and again, until their conscience became a ghost they could no longer silence. As their body weakens and their breath grows shallow, the truth becomes unbearable. The real punishment isn't death, it's awareness. Awareness of every time they chose comfort over integrity, lies over truth, cruelty over compassion. And as they lie there, trapped between this world and the next, they finally see that their entire life was a war, not against others, but against themselves. And the voice they spent a lifetime trying to kill now becomes the only thing that remains. It whispers the final truth they can't escape. You knew better, but you chose worse. That's when the tears come. Not for the people they hurt, not even for what they've lost, but for the part of their soul they abandoned. Because in the end, it's not death that hurts. It's realizing how long they lived deaf to their own conscience, blind to their own truth, and far away from who they were meant to be. 5. Chasing pleasure, losing purpose. All their lives, they chased sensations, not meaning. They ran after the next thrill, the next desire, the next indulgence, believing it would finally silence the emptiness inside. Money, sex, status, validation, they consumed it all like addicts, mistaking stimulation for satisfaction. And for a while, it worked. The cars, the attention, the adrenaline, it gave them moments of escape. But pleasure is a cruel master. It gives just enough to keep you coming back, while slowly taking away your soul. They built their lives around comfort, not character. Whenever pain or discomfort came, they escaped into distraction, a drink, a body, a screen, anything that kept them from facing themselves. But here's the paradox. The more they fed their desires, the emptier they became. Because every pleasure has an aftertaste, and that aftertaste is always regret. You can't drown emptiness with more noise. You can't fix your soul with things that rot the moment you touch them. And when their youth fades, when the body that once craved begins to weaken, they discover the truth they spent their whole life running from. None of it ever mattered. The same pleasures that once made them feel powerful now mock them. The same lust that once gave them confidence now leaves them hollow. The same wealth that once made them proud now feels meaningless in the face of death. Because in those final moments, they realize pleasure dies with the body, but purpose lives beyond it. The Stoics said, "Pleasure enslaves, purpose liberates." But they never listened. They mistook indulgence for freedom, not knowing that the deepest prison is the one built by desire. They spent years chasing the next feeling of being alive, never realizing they were slowly dying inside. They gave up peace for pleasure, meaning for excitement, truth for escape. And now, when it's too late to turn back, they see how every pleasure that once lit them up was only a distraction from the darkness within. They start remembering all the times they chose the easy path over the right one, the times they hurt others to satisfy themselves, the times they mistook desire for love, pride for power, greed for success. And the cruelest part? They had everything the world admires, yet they never found peace. Because pleasure feeds the body, not the soul. It fills your hands, not your heart. As they take their final breaths, that realization cuts deeper than any pain they've ever known. They see that real joy never came from what they had. It came from what they gave. Real fulfillment wasn't in what they possessed. It was in who they became. But that truth arrives too late. Their entire life flashes before them, not as moments of happiness, but as a series of escapes. They lived to feel good, but never to be good. And now, lying there in silence, they finally understand. All those pleasures they worshipped were chains. They had everything they wanted, except the one thing that mattered most: peace. 6. Destroying others for personal gain. There's a special kind of silence that comes to those who built their success on the ruins of others. For years, they walked through life believing they were clever, manipulating, deceiving, exploiting, always taking advantage of the kind and the trusting. They saw people not as souls, but as tools. Every friendship was an opportunity, every relationship a transaction, every kindness a weakness to exploit. They believed stepping on others was the only way to rise. And for a while, it worked. They got what they wanted: the position, the money, the recognition. But what they didn't realize was that every betrayal came with a price, a debt the soul would one day demand to be paid. When death approaches, that debt comes due. The faces of those they wronged begin to return, not as spirits, but as memories that burn like fire. The friend they betrayed for gain, the loyal person they deceived, the innocent heart they crushed for convenience. One by one, those moments replay in their mind, clearer than ever before. And in each one, they are no longer the victor. They are the villain. The truth hits hard. They didn't succeed, they destroyed. They didn't rise, they corrupted. They didn't win, they lost their humanity piece by piece. Evil always believes it escapes, but conscience never forgets. The world might forgive, people might move on, but your own soul, it keeps the score. The Stoics believe that the greatest punishment for wrong is to become the kind of person who commits it. And now, they see exactly what that means. They look back and realize every act of cruelty didn't just wound someone else, it poisoned them. Every time they hurt someone for their own gain, they carved another scar into their spirit. What once felt like victory now feels like rot. The power they fought for feels meaningless when there's no one left to share it with. The wealth they accumulated feels heavier than gold. It feels like guilt. And the admiration they once demanded from others? It's gone. All that remains is a haunting question echoing in the back of their mind. Was it worth it? And deep down, they know the answer. They could have built others. They could have inspired, helped, lifted, healed. But they chose destruction because it was easier. Breaking is always easier than building. Hurting is always easier than understanding. They chose to be feared instead of loved, powerful instead of peaceful. And now they see the emptiness that comes with that choice. As their time runs out, the memories don't fade, they intensify. They can feel the weight of every soul they harmed pressing down on them. They thought they were taking from others, but they were really stealing from themselves. Every act of cruelty, every betrayal, every selfish victory, it stripped them of their peace, their purpose, their humanity. And in the end, as they stare into the ceiling with nothing but regret in their chest, they realize the cruelest truth of all. They didn't just destroy others for personal gain, they destroyed themselves. 7. Never becoming who they could have been. There's a moment, right before death, when time slows down. And in that moment, the mask falls. The lies, the ego, the image they spent their whole life protecting, none of it matters anymore. What stands before them isn't death, it's the person they could have been. The kind, brave, disciplined soul they buried beneath greed, fear, and excuses. That version of themselves stares back, silent, disappointed, and unrecognizable. Because deep down, they always knew they were capable of more. But they chose comfort over courage. Approval over authenticity. They traded their potential for temporary pleasure, and it cost them everything. They remember the dreams they once had, not the selfish ones, but the real ones. The ones that made them feel alive. The ideas they abandoned. The people they pushed away. The good they could have done, but didn't. It all comes crashing down like waves of regret. Not loud, but suffocating. You can almost feel their soul screaming, "I had time, and I wasted it." The Stoic Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But they never were. They talked about change, but never changed. They wanted meaning, but ran from the work that gives life meaning. They start to see how life gave them 1,000 chances to turn around. Moments where they could have apologized, forgiven, tried harder, or simply been honest. But they didn't. They thought there would always be more time. And that's the final illusion evil hides behind. The idea that redemption can wait. But the clock never stops. Every second lived without purpose becomes another brick in the wall that separates them from who they were meant to be. Now, at the end, there's no more pretending. No more distractions. Just silence. And the unbearable truth echoing inside their mind. They didn't lose life. They wasted it. All the things they once thought mattered, money, validation, dominance, crumble to dust. And what remains is the ghost of potential. The person they could have been if they had chosen truth over pride and love over power. That's the ultimate punishment. Not flames, not torment, but awareness. Awareness of what they could have become and the crushing realization that it's gone forever. Because the tragedy of an evil life isn't just the pain they caused others, it's the beautiful version of themselves they killed along the way. So remember this. You don't have to wait for death to see the truth. You can face it now. Choose to live consciously. Choose to heal what's dark inside you. Because in the end, the greatest peace is not found in power or money or revenge. It's found in the quiet knowing that you lived with integrity, even when no one was watching. If this message spoke to you, leave a like, subscribe, and let's continue exploring the truths that most people fear to face. Because wisdom begins where denial ends.